Hello, friends. How are you doing? Wow, has there been some activity, hasn't there, the last couple days? So let's take a look at today's chart as far as we've got it. Okay, now I'm going to show you what I did here. I reconstructed the chart because the data was removed from it. So basically, this is what the chart looks like as of wee hours of the morning, my time. And fascinating that now sometimes this happens. Sometimes data will be taken out of the chart, and in fact it was taken out, put back in, and then taken out tonight. I have seen this before, definitely seen it a few times, a handful of times. So basically what I did was I reconstructed the graph and I put this back in. What I want to do is I want to give you a kind of a quick overview explanation of what I think it is. And I'm just going to tell you that it's basically a continuation of the same trends that we saw in my last video. And that was this chart here. I had done a video on this technological effect, and it was a 2-hour video. I'm going to try to make this one a lot shorter so it's easier for you guys to get through the material. But I explained in the first hour the energetics that led up to the idea of needing to have this happen in the chart. And then at about 1 hour, 11 minutes on that video, I'll link it below. That's where I go into detail about what I think that what this is. And what I basically explained was that to me, it's what I'm calling a frequency interface. Basically, what you've got here is, in this part, it looks like a technological action to me, like some kind of technology, perhaps. Now, these views are my own. They don't represent anyone else's views. It's just simply my interpretation of the chart. And it's a hypothesis, but it's one that I feel pretty good about. So anyway, so here is where the interpolation happens. That is an assessment of frequencies and frequency ranges and other data points. Then here is what I'm calling the frequency interface, and that's where two frequencies come together that normally wouldn't resonate with each other, but because of certain actions at play, that happens. And in doing so, what I called the rider frequency pops out. It's a hidden frequency that doesn't show on the chart except here. You see here where I'm going to show you this in the current chart too, but I want to just review this because it's more obvious in the chart. Here, a signature, so a combination of frequencies, amplitudes, qualities across resonances. So if you put all of that together and it looked like a formula, or it looked like even a pattern or sacred geometry, I'm calling that the signature. So that is located after this analyzing of all those data points. It's located here. It's located and it's surrounded by the green, which the green is a very positive energy for human beings. It basically is like, it just seems to be part of the energies that representing the frequencies that sustain us as beings on this planet. So it's located, and then as this action progresses through the chart, and this happens to match the alpha and beta brainwaves, these 1, 2, 3, 4 segments, the red and yellow is basically lifted out until in this last segment it's gone. So here this corresponds with alpha waves, low beta waves, mid beta waves, and high beta waves. Now let's go to today's chart. I'm going to go to the reconstructed one so you can see that. So here again, you have the same action happening. You can see here that possibly because of the first technological effect a couple days earlier that we just looked at, there's not a need. Now there's a line here because I cut and pasted this back in. There doesn't appear to be a need this time for an interpolation, so for assessing to try to find what they're looking for, assuming this is an advanced technology at play. So then you see there's a lot less of that red and yellow here. It looks like it might be completely clear in these next three sets of areas, which correspond to low beta waves, mid-range beta waves, and high beta waves. And the last video, which is linked below, I explained what all those beta waves and alpha waves, what they relate to in terms of human processing, brain processing. Now, what's interesting is that down here, the technological effect stopped. It only went to mid to low 30s, maybe 33, which again corresponds with high beta waves. So it's not in the gamma wave area. And then what we had was a section of no data. It's possible that there was data, but I was not looking at the chart, so I didn't capture it. And then normal operations resumed, essentially. So the chart went back to a normal pattern. Now, I know that there's a lot of people, trying to assess what was this. I feel that it is something that the machines picked up, and that was later removed. Now, this has happened before with this type of pattern. I know that right now people are talking about the Earth's, magnetic structure changing, or there's a dent in it or whatever. Maybe so. But we've still seen this before, many times actually. This is the first time it's come across quite this clear. It looks like the pattern was really nailed. And there's an interesting astrological aspect that's going on here. And this makes more sense if you look at these energies as also representing the shadow and the light, the forces of darkness and the forces of light. But when you look at the chart here, it was fascinating because this action happened almost exactly when, if not exactly, when Lilith and Eris conjuncted at the exact same point in the astrological degrees in the sky, the exact same degree and minutes. And that was a huge, big deal. I'm not an astrologer, and I do recommend Laura Walker at the Oracle Report for these things, because this is her specialty, these particular astrological aspects. She's an expert on them. But basically, Lilith is the dark queen, a force of chaos, but also a force of strength on the feminine side, but in our shadow. And I know that there are people who want to, transmute the shadow entirely. I don't want to go into that too much now, but essentially, once we integrate and own our shadow, we have access to those tool sets. It's whether we're using them in an unconscious state or a conscious state that matters. And so, because if we use them in a conscious state, they're no longer imbued with a negative quality. Basically, you're in 0 point. You're in a sort of a 0 point because you've come to consciousness. Now, Eris is the goddess of war, and she brings an incredible amount of strength and dynamic. And so Eris and Lilith together in the sky. Now I'm going to go a little esoteric here, and I'm going to say that from my standpoint, what this looks like is action by the forces of light, claiming back these symbols and their energies for humanity, claiming them back for us to act. And in that way, it's very, very exciting. In other words, I see this as a move made. I've talked about undoing spells in some of my previous videos, but this move is, in my view, taking action, and this move here, because Eris and Lilith are still very close together in the sky. This is taking action against forces of darkness, parasitic or chaotic forces at a time that they normally would act. In effect, attacking the source of power, which is a parasitic element that is unseen and hidden, an invisible element, if you will. And so that's actually quite the dramatic strategic action, in my view, and quite fascinating timing. We'll have more on this tomorrow, actually later today, to go into the energetics behind this dynamic. But I know that a lot of people are wondering about it and asking about it, and so I wanted to come out with this short video for you.